Pope Francis tells an Italian newspaper he fears dangerous alliances between world powers that have a distorted vision of the world. And he's mentioning the U.S. Dr. Matthew Bunson, an EWTN senior contributor, joins us now. Welcome to the program.
Great to be with you.
According to La Repubblica, the Pope says this: I fear that there may be dangerous alliances between powers that have a distorted vision of the world. America and Russia, China and North Korea, Putin and Assad, and the war in Syria. What does all of this mean?
Well, what Pope Francis is saying is that he's talking to the three major superpowers in the world today, Russia, the United States, and China, that all three have a responsibility to forge alliances that don't continue to divide up the world. Francis is very concerned that he uses the term that there's already a kind of slow simmering third world war, and he doesn't want those three superpowers to be working together to further destabilize the situation and create an even worse economic and migration problem than we already have.
Well, the Holy Father is talking about the world, but what about U.S. foreign policy? Is he concerned with the direction of that?
Well, popes have disagreed with U.S. foreign policy for a number of years. We think of Pope John Paul II disagreeing very firmly with George W. Bush's invasion of Iraq. Pope Francis himself disagreed with Barack Obama's policy regarding Syria. So Pope Francis has expressed concerns about the United States' involvement, especially in the Middle East. But on a more wide aspect, Pope Francis sent a letter to the G20 just before it started, and he included the United States in that they cannot on the one hand be working toward economic development, but on the other then turn a blind eye toward mounting conflicts that, as I was saying, increase the immigration problem and actually destabilize the situation globally.
These reports, what we're hearing outside of the letter, have been reported by a journalist who wrote this piece, but he has really become part of the story. Here he is right now. Tell us a little bit about what's happening with this journalist.
Well, his name is Eugenio Scalfani, and he is one of the co-founders of La Repubblica, an English translated Italian newspaper. He is 93 years old, and Pope Francis has given 4 major interviews to Scalfani over the last few years. Scalfani goes to the interviews and then transcribes them entirely from memory.
Oh my God.
So,
if I did that, I'm sorry, but if I did that, I'd have a blank piece of paper.
Well, not to pick on somebody who's 90 years old.
No, I'm not. I just couldn't do it.
Well, exactly. And the problem is that what we find in these interviews is, and here's the takeaway, the general themes that Pope Francis is giving, I think, are probably very accurate because they conform with what Francis has talked about in his letter to the G20. The particulars of these interviews, however, really do have to fall under some suspicion as to their accuracy. So that has to be taken into account any time we see these interviews in La Repubblica, and in this case, it's about world situations in crisis.
Well, it sounds like it's better to read the letter to the G20 that the Pope wrote.
I would highly recommend it.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Dr. Matthew Bunson, for joining us.
Great to be with you.